La 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 la. La 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 la. Do 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 do. I can't sing. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So this has been a fun morning. Let me tell you how my day started. Let me just tell you how my day started. My day started. I'll put that there. Good morning. Good morning, Jane, Karen, Scott, Lee. Wah! Look at you guys. Okay. First of all, I don't know what's happening with my body, but it's okay. No, second of all, my cat, Gustafer Gustafferson, was waking me up this morning and he scratched me in my face. Like, because he usually does the paw thing, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. You know what I mean? I don't know if you have a cat that does that, but I do. Well, apparently today he decided, no, you're not getting up fast enough. No, he wasn't mean, but he like scratched me and it like bled. Like I have a nice little scratch here that is a bleeder. I'm like, what the fuck? Anyway, good morning, everybody. Good morning. We made it to Wednesday. Good morning, Hags. How are you, darling? Good morning. Anyways, man, what a morning. Yikes. So also another assault on my morning. He probably does need his claws trimmed because I'm not very good at trimming. I mean, I can cut the dog's claws, but the cat's claws, for some reason, I have a harder time, like, blah, 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 blah. Living the dream. I know. Yeah, exactly. I am, after I finish today, I'm going to wash my face and put Neosporin on and let it sit there for whatever. So yeah, it'll be fine. But I'm like, really, really, cat, really, cat. And it was one of those things where he scratched me, and I'm like, oh, ow, and then it was like blood all over my fingers. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell, sir? Excuse me, I'm getting up. I'm getting up. Anyway, hi Neil, how are you? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. I hope everyone had a good night. Rogue cat. It was Gustafer. He does that all the time. He's my little wake up guy. And he does the thing where he's like, come on, wake up. He looked pretty sorry after he did it. I will say that. He looked pretty sorry. Anyway, good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Wake and Bake with Lolo. I'm Lolo. And I'm always wondering, what am I doing? Oh, wait, where's my God? My screen got real weird this morning. Also, it's just a weird day. Okay, so let's just put it that way. Let's just put it that way. It's a weird day, and that's the way it's gonna be. Cat scratch fever. Yeah, wake up, scratch blood. Oops. Yeah, hi butterflies. How are you? Yeah, so oh well, that happens. It, sometimes you get scratched in the face by your cat. I don't know. I don't know. Where am I? Where am I? Okay. Beep 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 beep. Oh, I don't have any. I don't have any viewers. Sorry. Oh, cats are perverse. Never had a dog. Yeah, there you go, Max. I don't think that he really meant. Well, of course, I don't know what he meant. He probably did mean to do it. He probably was like, "I'm gonna get this bitch right now. I'm gonna nail her right in the face for all the time she was late on dinner." Oh my God! Reading about the deal with Japan, ridiculous. Japan will invest 550 billion at Dump's direction with 90% profits to us. What? No, there's no way Japan would make that deal, Leigh. Are you kidding me? There's no way Japan would make that deal. No way. Is that really? I didn't even look up the Japan thing. God, I kind of meant to do that actually too. I can't keep up. I can't keep up with everything. Oh my God. I can't keep up with anything. I have quite a complement of things for us today. The first thing is there's two possible committee meetings. One is the State Department, which I'm kind of tempted to watch the State Department one. because I'm very interested in State Department, I guess. And then there is an energy and commerce. It's a markup, so it would be going bill by bill. So I might not put us on that one, but I think I'll start with the State Department one, and then we'll go from there. Rewolf Zam is Max. Just so you know. I think you guys know that by now, but okay, here we go. A massive trade deal. God, we're going to spend so much for shit. EPA to repeal greenhouse gas regulations. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked. They don't care. They don't care. They don't care. Oh, good. This one isn't blocked. Oh, this is CBS News. Okay. Let me put that here. Da 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 da. I kind of want to read this now. Hold on. Anyway, good morning. I'm so glad everyone is here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for always supporting the show. I'm so appreciative of that. I hope you know that. I hope you know how much I appreciate everyone. It's a very hard, not hard, it's not very hard, but it's a hard enough existence to try and like do something like this just because, you know, you don't really get the. No, I didn't read about the U.S. senators visiting Canada. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, this is from CBS. There was a New York Times story on the Japan deal, but we'll see what we get from this. Trump says he struck massive trade deal with Japan. That's massive. President Trump said Tuesday he struck a massive trade deal with Japan that calls for 15% tariffs on goods the U.S. imports from there. God, why does everything have to be more expensive? Why? 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 I know you do. Thank you, Grace Lisa. I know you guys appreciate. You're so sweet to me. You really are. And you put up with a little bit of my whining because I do whine about that. It just gets really frustrating sometimes. And then I see these idiots online who get like 500 viewers at a time. And I know all those people aren't real. I get that or whatever, I get all that. I don't know. It just is it gets you down. It gets you down. And I feel like I put out something that's pretty good, and then I look at people like this guy yesterday, who's an idiot, but he was going over the Jeffrey Epstein. He's been using the Jeffrey Epstein stuff to build his subs. So he literally does a vertical stream, which tends to get more viewers because you end up in the scroll. That's how I got more subs when I was out in the dinosaur suit, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, point is, it can get really depressing. When it's really like the only thing that I do that really brings me joy is this. So, you know what I mean? Like, and that might be on me, but that's just the way it is right now. Okay. Anyway, enough with me. President Trump said Tuesday he has struck a massive trade deal with Japan that calls for 15% tariffs on goods the U.S. imports from there. What? The president wrote on his Truth Social platform Tuesday that as part of the agreement, Japan will invest $550 billion in the U.S., which will receive 90% of the profits. Is that true? Is that true? Oh, Scott, you guys bring me joy. Let me tell you that. I hope you know that. If I don't tell you often enough, let me tell you. Senate confirms judge who compares LGBTQ rights to pedophilia and declares Christianity must be imposed. What? What? Is that the what's his name? Is that Bovey? Is that Bovey? Oh, I'm itchy. Okay. Da, 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 da. He also said Japan will, quote, open their country to trade, including cars and trucks, rice, and certain other agricultural products. Is this true? I cannot believe this. Yeah, Neil, I can't. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. This is just not happening. 15% tariff rate announced by Mr. Dump is lower than the 25 he proposed earlier in the month, and 24% duties that were proposed on Liberation Day in early April. This is a very exciting time for the United States of America. Oh, shut up. They had their top people here. Wait, we can do this. Hold on.
Wait, this is a very exciting time for the United States of America, and especially for the fact that we will continue to always have great relationship with the country of Japan. I did. I wrote that. I wrote that. They had their top people here. I mean, tippy top. And we worked on it long and hard. I didn't, but somebody did. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Joshua Devine. Okay. And it's a great deal for everybody. What are you guys worried about? Why aren't you happy with your 10% profit? Hello? You spend all the money to get there and then you take back 10%, which might not even cover your costs of doing whatever the investment is. So, is that, huh? Huh? They had their top people here, like tippy top. I mean it. And we worked on it long and hard. Well, at least Jameson might have. I don't know who was there. I don't care. And it's a great deal for everybody. The president said in the negotiations, blah, 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 blah.
Japan is the United States' 5th largest trading partner. According to federal statistics, Japan brought $79.7 billion worth of American goods last year, and the U.S. imported $148 billion worth of Japanese goods. More than 1/3 of the U.S. imports from Japan last year, or $52.3 billion, were cars and car parts powered by Japan's massive auto industry, which they have done. Hi, Jay Rance! Good morning! Oh my gosh, I didn't even see you sneak in. Check the cord. I dropped a little graphic about this deal. Ah, okay. Na 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 hey hey goodbye. From George Conway. Here we go. This is he shares Spencer Hakimian's update on this. Toyota is up 8% on the news of a 15% tariff. Why? It's simple. Oh God. Oh my God. Leigh, is this serious? Is this serious? Ford, GM, Tesla, and all the other American manufacturers are going to be paying 50% more for their steel, 50% more for their copper, 25% more for their Canadian production, 25% more for their Mexican production, and 55% on their Chinese production. Toyota only has to pay 15% more, and they're done with all the shenanigans. That's why this was such a good deal. Oh. Ford has to pay much more than that. A lot more, in fact. We've given a Japanese car company an advantage over American car companies, all in hopes of bringing auto jobs back to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh my God. J for genius. That's right, Grace Lee. Grace Lee said. Oh shit. This is the best. I fucking love this. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't. I can't with these guys. What? Oh, there we go. I can't. I can't. I cannot. Leigh, welcome to my world. Companies with offshore production will do the same thing. Yes, it's humorous. Well, it's not really humorous, but oh my God. If someone doesn't ask, oh my God, if Squawk Box or someone doesn't ask what about this particular scenario, I'm going to eat a cat. I mean, not my cat, but I won't even eat any cats, but I'm just saying. Someone has to ask him and present this scenario. Please. God, we're so dumb. We're so dumb. I can't believe that. I can't fucking believe that. Wait, what time is it? 6:45. Detroit needs to scream at Wall Street to get them to. I mean, it's kind of shocking to me, Leigh, though. Yeah, cause a taco. It really, well, and the problem is like, do they not know this? Like, do they not do the math? Or is he just talking out of his ass? Now, he could be just talking out of his ass. I mean, I can't. Tom says GM said yesterday tariffs cost them over $1 billion in the latest quarter. Oh shit. Their stock price was down 7% after they said they would absorb the tariff. Their shareholders are not happy. Yeah, because that impacts their earnings. And that means that when they don't, hi Easily, how are you? You know, that impacts their earnings. That is what the shareholders are there for. They're there for their earnings. They want their earnings. This is crazy. This is insanity. This is insanity. Like push this tweet all over the place. Push it. I just shared it. Push it, push it, push it. Auto is so complex, and these clowns don't know 1/10 of what is needed. No, they don't get it. No way GM will absorb the tariffs. Yeah, they can say whatever they want, right, Leigh? Right? They can say whatever they want. But they're not going to. Of course, they're not going to. They're shirking their fiduciary responsibility. Yes, they absolutely are. This is crazy. This is cuckoo banana town. That's what this is. Wow. Thank you, Leigh. That's amazing to me. Speaking of great, great news on the horizon, this one I found, I think, Leigh, you actually also had tagged or shared this, and I picked it up from wherever you shared it, I'm pretty sure. Biggest U.S. power grid auction prices raised by 22% to new heights. Power lines are saying, okay, let's see. Wow, that's a really unfortunate placement of that little thing. There we go. PJM auction prices, which I don't know what that is. What is that? I don't know what PJM is. PJM auction prices rise due to data center demand. Supply shortfall. Wait, what? Data center demand. Does that mean we're getting. Okay, well, let's read. Shares of power companies rise on auction results. Environmental groups criticize PJM for slow renewable energy integration. Well, okay. They don't really care. Prices out of the biggest U.S. power auction held by grid operator PJM Interconnection. I didn't even know we had grid operators. Can I say that? I actually thought like the government. Okay, I'm dumb. That's it. Cleared at 329.17 a megawatt day, roughly 22% higher than last year's record high levels. Let me read that again. Roughly 22% higher than last year's record high levels, as electricity demand continues to outstrip supply, according to results released by the organization on Tuesday. Well, they better get on those SMRs, those small modular reactors, right? Bets on Lummox being forced out by the powerful people. I don't know. I mean, Tom, where are they? I don't think they care. I don't think they care. Or I think that they're so, if he crashes everything, it might be a fire sale. That's the only thing I can think of. I don't know what this is, why this is like this. Right? A recent surge in U.S. power. Oh my God. They're already doing it. I didn't even know they had big data centers yet. I'm so confused. A recent surge in U.S. power consumption, driven by big tech's data center demand, has butted up against roughly a decade of shrinking power supplies in PJM, North America's largest power grid operator. That's who they are, leading to a supply shortfall that has driven up prices in the capacity auction. PJM's capacity auction determines what power plant owners in the grid network, which covers 1 in 5 Americans, will be paid to guarantee that they pump out electricity during times of extreme demand to help avoid blackouts. Shares of major power producing companies that receive capacity payments rose on the auction results. I didn't even know this existed. GP, hello, good morning. Oh my gosh. I came in when Lolo said she would eat a cat, and then I worked out how to remove that stupid leaderboard. I know, everybody has to do it for themselves. I can't even do it. I can't even do it for you. Shares of major power producing companies that receive capacity payments rose on the auction results. Talon Energy's shares were up over 9%. Constellation Energy shares rose over 5%. And NRG Energy climbed over 6% in trading after the bell. Oh, good. Well, everybody's rich, 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 rich. They might be cold, but they'll be rich, rich, rich. Then you'll have riots to go back to where we were when we were great. Yeah, there you go, Max. You know what solves it? When the economy crashes, when the economy goes to total hell and everything is a disaster, Trump said in 2014, calling into Fox and Friends. Wow, I wonder. He's not that smart, right? He's not that smart, right? The payments are a sign that the energy supply and demand balance in PJM, with higher prices typically acting as an incentive for developers to build more power plants. PJM's territory covers 13 states in the District of Columbia, as well as the biggest concentration of data centers in the world, including Virginia's Data Center Alley. The latest auction, which covers the year beginning next summer, is showing signs of a continued supply crunch. Wow, 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 wow. Let me see what else I had up here. This is Epstein. I know, sorry. That's we just read. This is Gaza. Oh, here we go. Texas Instruments. I also picked this one up from a couple days ago or yesterday. Oh, yeah, I guess it was yesterday. Texas Instruments slumps as tariff uncertainty weighs on demand. I was interested in reading this not because of Texas Instruments, but because of kind of bellwethers, like looking at different companies that would demonstrate how the tariffs are really, like impacting a particular company. Thank you, Jim Nalgren. PJM stands for Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland. There you go. Well, there you go. Texas Instruments' quarterly profit forecast failed to impress investors as it pointed to weaker than expected demand for its analog chips from some customers and underscored tariff related uncertainty. Shares of the company slumped 11% in extended trading on Tuesday. They've risen more than 13% so far this year. The Reuters tariff watch. Oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Chip makers such as Texas Instruments do not directly face U.S. President Trump's elevated tariffs yet. But the cost of chip making tools has risen. There you go. I know. I will. I will, Tom. I will. I've got a book. I just got a book about like not homesteading, but kind of like Carrie. Good morning. Good morning, Carrie. Welcome. But the cost of chip making tools has risen, and some of their end customers have pared back spending. Oops. Tariffs and geopolitics are disrupting and reshaping global supply chains, CEO Haviv Ilan said on a post-earnings call. Automotive recovery has been shallow. Well, get ready for Japan. TI expects third quarter earnings between $1.36 and $1.60, the midpoint of which was below analyst estimates of $1.49, according to data, blah, blah, blah. It expects revenue between $4.45 billion and $4.8 billion compared with market expectations of $4.6. The chip maker also reported sales. ASML, the biggest supplier of chip making equipment globally, warned last week that it might not achieve revenue growth in 2026 as uncertainty in tariff talks has spurred U.S. chip makers to delay finalizing investments. TSMC, the world's biggest chip making factory, said last week that it was being conservative with its outlook to account for tariff related disruption. In response to analysts' questions on post earnings call about whether tariffs were prompting customers to pull orders and bumping up revenue, Texas Instruments CEO Ilan said he can't rule out the possibility. When you see such strong behavior in a quarter two versus quarter one, you have to attribute some of it to the tariff environment, he said. Analysts also grilled TI executives on what they characterize as a change in tone in remarks from the previous quarter when leadership had touted indications of a significant demand rebound, independent of tariff related factors. Management voiced caution as they saw some normalization of orders through the second quarter. TI has made big investments to expand its capacity for cost-effective 300 millimeter wafer manufacturing technology and plans to shell out more than $60 billion to expand its U.S. manufacturing footprint. The company also expects factory loadings in the third quarter to remain at the same level as the second quarter, which could hurt margins, Stifel analyst Tori Svanberg said, referring to the volume of chips being manufactured. Increasing factory loadings spread out fixed costs over more input, typically improving margins. Svanberg says TI stock fell post-market because investors were expecting somewhat more, especially for third quarter outlook, including gross margins, profit margins. CFO Rafael Lizardi said TI expects gross margin growth to be flat in the third quarter. Ooh. The company's profit outlook does not include changes related to recently enacted U.S. tax legislation, TI said after Trump signed into law a massive package of tax and spending cuts earlier the month. TI expects the new tax regime to result in a higher tax rate. Wait, what? TI expects the new tax regime to result in a higher tax rate in the third quarter? I thought they voted to lower taxes on companies. I must have missed that. I look beautiful today. Broken blood vessel in the eye and a band-aid on the upper lip. Gotta laugh. Sunglasses. Easily, my cat scratched me in my face. I got a scratch on my face. If their BBB isn't replacing the old BBB, then it's getting tossed away. I don't know what BBB is. I know. I hope you're okay, Easily. Oh my God. Surgery on lip. Poked myself. Oh, babe. Last night, Schlump said he would get drug prices down 1,000, 600, 500, 1,500%. So the drug companies will be paying you to take their medication. I think that's great. It's about time. It's about time. Has this started yet? I don't think. Has this started? All right. I'm waiting on the State Department thing to start. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and then this was OpenAI. I don't know if I might not have time to read this, but I'll try. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. I'll agree. I hate you. This one caught my eye too yesterday. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman warns of an AI fraud crisis. You know, here's the thing. Yeah, tariffs on pharmaceuticals are pending under Section 232 investigation. Oh, wow. Oh, it's just such a mess. Leigh, I can't even imagine what your life is like trying to deal with this bullshit. I really can't. There's Sam Altman. He's an asshole, by the way, just so you know. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says the world may be on the precipice of a fraud crisis because of how artificial intelligence could enable bad actors to impersonate other people. Yeah, it just happened to a journalist. A thing that terrifies me is apparently there are still some financial institutions that will accept a voice print as authentication for you to move a lot of money or do something else. You say a challenge phrase and they just do it, Altman said. That is a crazy thing to still be doing. AI has fully defeated most of the ways that people authenticate currently, other than passwords. Okay, so let me get this straight. The guy who basically is one of the founding arbiters of AI, or whatever you want to call his role in this AI thing, now, after the horses have left the barn, is like, hey, you guys better fix all your like authentication shit. Okay? You guys should all like you should really take care of that. I mean, okay, can I just say something? I think I think that people like Sam Altman and Elmo and whoever else should be held liable if their tools are used to perpetrate fraud. I know, exactly. GP, I don't either. That's why I never answer unidentified calls. They want your voice. I agree. Um, they should be liable. When are they going to? They unleash these tools. why aren't they responsible for what happens with those tools? I understand it's a little bit like gun manufacturers. They're not responsible for people who kill with guns. But this is kind of crazy, right? He didn't yeah, I mean, there wasn't like, I mean, I know there's been conversation, but now is when he's like, oh my God. Oh my God. The comments were part of his wide ranging interview about the economic and societal impacts of AI at the Federal Reserve on Tuesday. He also told the audience, which included representatives of large U.S. financial institutions, about the role he expects AI to play in the economy. His appearance comes as the White House is expected to release its AI action plan in the coming days. Oh, I can't wait. A policy document to outline its approach to regulating the technology and promoting America's dominance in the AI space. OpenAI, which provided recommendations for the plan, has ramped up its presence on and around Capitol Hill in recent months. On Tuesday, the company confirmed it will open its first Washington, D.C. office early next year to house its approximately 30-person workforce in the city. Chan Park, OpenAI's head of global affairs for the U.S. and Canada, will lead the new office alongside Joe Larson, who is leaving defense technology company Anduril. That's Palmer Luckey's drone company. That's right, Palmer Luckey. That's Ginger Luckey Gates's brother. I'm telling you right now. Who is leaving to become OpenAI's vice president of government. The company will use the space to host policymakers, preview new technology, and provide AI trainings, for example, to teachers and government officials. It will also house research into AI's economic impact and how to improve access to the technology. Despite Altman's, oh my God, CNN, calm down. Despite Altman's warnings about the technology's risks, OpenAI has urged the Trump administration to avoid regulation it says could hamper tech companies' ability to compete with foreign AI innovations. Earlier this month, the U.S. Senate voted to strike. Oh, so they did strike the controversial provision from Trump's agenda that would have prevented states from enforcing AI-related laws for 10 years. So that's good. That's good news. Altman isn't alone in worrying that AI will supercharge fraud. The FBI warned about these AI voice and video cloning scams last year. Multiple parents have reported that AI voice technology was used in attempts to trick them out of money by convincing them that their children were in trouble. I mean, that should be like kidnapping. You know what I mean? That should be like kidnapping. I mean, yes, it is a boogeyman because we want all the money. Grace Lisa, we want all the money. We don't want anyone else to have any money.
From the third highest ranking officer of the Department of State, the Undersecretary for Political Affairs, or P as the position is referred to inside of the State Department.
Hold on.
P oversees and directs via the regional bureaus the work of all of our embassies abroad, and it has enormous influence over the deployment and the composition of the Foreign Service. This hearing will provide a greater insight into how the department's reorganization plan will change the division of labor between the so-called regional and functional bureaus, and how the President's America First foreign policy will be implemented in the field. And I will now recognize myself for an opening statement. Under the Biden administration, the State Department, in my opinion, operated without clear lines of command. I believe that it blurred responsibilities in many cases, and that it had a culture that prioritized
That's going to get a lot of work
process
today.
over the outcomes that the State Department would produce. I would use the DEI office as an example, where they were worried about what the bucket of applicants would look like rather than the outcomes of those applicants and what they were delivering for the American taxpayer.
I don't know how to spell reorganization.
That was a direct quote from the former DEI Secretary, Abercrombie Winstanley.
Damn it, who's playing?
That has changed under President Biden, President Trump, and Secretary Rubio. This committee is working to restore real command and control at the State Department, something that the Pentagon has had for decades, and something that the State Department desperately needs. We are crafting the first comprehensive standalone State Department authorization bill in over 20 years. This is not meant as a gesture. It is meant as a serious institutional overhaul. We're not doing this for symbolism. We're doing it because there needs to be common sense and logic within our diplomacy. Our goal is simple. Bring order,
Brian
bring
Mast.
clarity,
There's nothing
and bring
logical about
effectiveness
this
to a
douche
department that
whistle.
too often prioritized
Fish a glass snake out of
institutional
my
interests
pool. No.
above the American
Please be
interest.
careful, Jay.
A perfect example is how
Chairman Testicle
members of
Head,
Congress
Grand
in too many
Poobah.
cases
Yeah,
are
he's the
more
testicle
concerned
head. Yes.
about somebody being
Smooth
fired from the
brained.
State Department after 10 or
What do they
15
say?
years of
Smooth
employment
brained?
when they should be asking how productive those employees were and what were the measurable outcomes that were provided by them approving transgender operas or drag show tutorials or DEI musicals or LGBTQ comic books abroad. Under President Biden, the department suffered from a structural identity crisis. Maybe policy was delivered by
Good
one
luck,
group,
Neil.
altered
No,
by
they're all
another, and
douchebags.
implemented
Now
by
they're
a
all
third,
goobers.
often with no clear authority or accountability.
Yeah, good luck, Jay. Be
Turf wars
careful.
between regional and functional bureaus slowed everything down.
How big is a glass snake?
The Undersecretary for Political Affairs is treated as first among equals. But that phrase itself reveals to me a problem. Too many equals, not enough leadership.
What?
No mission
Oh my
succeeds
God, these guys
without
are
a
so
chain of
terrible.
command.
You put pics
and
and
I
signal?
believe that
Oh, cool.
diplomacy is no exception. The State Department
I'm not gonna
must
put 'em up,
operate
but-
like a strategic
Oh, my
institution
signal's down.
with a clear hierarchy, mission clarity, decisive leadership, and measurable outcomes.
Yeah.
It should not be a think tank that looks at the world as an academic exercise with no measurable
Tom
outcomes.
says use a rake.
And our reforms aim to correct that. Some will resist this. They'll defend the status quo as if it's sacred. But we've seen what the status quo produces: mission drift, strategic confusion, a sprawling bureaucracy
What this
that's
guy
often
calls
more
mission
focused on
drift
virtue
is that he
signaling
doesn't understand
than
how
actually
grants
projecting
work and community
American strength
development
abroad.
works.
Let us be clear, this is not about copying the Pentagon. It's about applying common sense. At DoD, policy is made at the top through a chain of command that is recognizable to everybody.
Huh.
At the State Department, that
So-
discipline has been missing.
What?
We don't expect the State
Fuck
Department to be
off.
soldiers in uniform, but we should expect it to have a command structure that is
It
recognizable.
does
and
have a
followed.
command structure. Oh my
We can't
God.
afford what has
Oh, it
happened to
gives them
happen
something
again.
to.
Not when adversaries like
around.
China and
Oh.
Iran are using every tool at their disposal
Oh, Signal is
to
just
undermine
a chat
American
group.
power.
It's like a.
We
it's
can't
just
have a
chat
foreign
group.
service
It's not
officers
it's not an open
that
platform.
freelance social
If that makes sense.
experimentation. Our vision is straightforward. Functional bureaus and undersecretaries should focus on developing policy, clear, coherent, and grounded in national interest. Regional bureaus, with their area expertise, should adapt and execute that policy on the ground. This creates a clear flow of authority, streamlines operations, and ensures accountability at every level. What we've had are regional bureaus providing loose oversight of embassies that frequently operate like personal fiefdoms rather than the implementing arm of the State Department. Under President Biden, we had embassies funding gender-inclusive leadership through Ultimate Frisbee in India for $100,000, or spending $425,000 to help Indonesian coffee companies be more gender and climate friendly.
Okay, I'm going to
This
stop
hearing
him.
is
Oops,
part
I
of a
was gonna
broader
stop him.
effort to realign.
Now I'm going to stop him. And I'll move past through his comments, but let me tell you again about USAID grants and grants that come out of the State Department, which is basically USAID. Okay? Grants that come out of the State Department are intended to help different countries address issues that they have. So, for example, let's take the Indonesian coffee makers. That would be programming to help the coffee farmers or who they're talking about. I don't know what the details of the grant are. That would be to help them combat maybe slavery in their supply chain. It would be to empower workers. it would be, like there's a million different things. The whole frisbee, I bet you frisbee was one activity within a suite of activities that help build community or whatever it was they were trying to address. So I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. Whenever you hear them describe and kind of when they dismiss the activities that a grant might include, like frisbee or whatever, or gender, gender kind of like helping, combat discrimination, gender discrimination, etc. Those activities are the things that get them through to the message. And those activities are each evaluated on whether or not they were effective. There's a whole monitoring and evaluation program that goes along with every dollar that is spent through USAID or the State Department or whatever you want to call it. So that already happens. And the reason that they have these different programs and these different activities is because there are experts within the program staff of every organization that is getting these grants that are educated and trained on how to work in communities and do things. This is like master's level work. This isn't just like Joe from down the street and we're going to have him go play frisbee with a bunch of kids. That's not how these things work. These people are experts on working in international development, in anti-slavery, in supply chain management, in community development, in education, in healthcare, in financial literacy. You know what I mean? Like all of those things, there are specialists who are working on the ground alongside organizations within the country, usually, in fact, mostly. I just can't tell you how maddening this is when they mischaracterize what is happening in these grants.
The State Department with the mission it was meant to.
Been given with the help and name only you oversee, what's been given, Chairman.
I'm sorry.
And my colleague, the ranking member from New York, Representative Meeks.
Only took me about 8 minutes to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Undersecretary Hooker, for being here today. You've been given quite a job. Last week, your colleague, Michael Regas, told the committee that the regional bureaus and the U.S. diplomatic posts that you oversee would somehow fill all the gaps left by this administration's haphazard and short-sighted reorganization of the State Department and its unlawful dismantling of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Now, that would make sense if this were a reorganization in name only. If the goal were to empower the regional bureaus, we'd expect them to be staffed up and properly resourced. But that's not what's happening. Instead, Secretary Rubio fired 1,300 civil and foreign service officers across the department, squandering expertise which American taxpayers paid for and talent your bureaus now need. And rather than fund your work, this administration clawed back, with the help of my colleagues across the aisle, $8 billion in congressionally appropriated funds that was done in a bipartisan manner. Add that on top of your paltry budget request for next year. You're staring at an 85% hole in the State Department's wallet. The department keeps repeating the talking points about having 1,500 domestic office units, but that's not the real issue. The question isn't whether we have too many offices, it's whether we have the right capabilities. In the limited briefings we've received, no one has demonstrated that you do. We shouldn't confuse complexity with inefficiency. America's diplomatic apparatus is specialized, and it needs to be.
That part.
Many of domestic operations are essential. They provide critical support to our missions overseas. Madam Undersecretary, you said in your confirmation hearing in April, and I quote, "The United States requires a modern diplomatic corps that is ready to meet the challenges of a complex world," unquote. But I'm telling you, Madam Undersecretary, you've been set up to fail. This administration is asking you to do much more with much less. It's like being sent into a war zone.
No, they're not.
With a
They're
water
just
gun.
telling her not to do it.
You're expected to promote human rights.
What are we even talking
without
about
a
here?
Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. You're expected to prevent conflict without a Conflict and Stabilization Operations Bureau. You're expected to investigate war crimes without an Office of Global Criminal Justice. And that's just the beginning. But this is more than a logistical challenge. It's a values problem. This administration has openly declared its hostility to the values that center our foreign policy and give us influence and credibility around the world. Instead of defending democracy, President Trump and the MAGA Republicans cheer on its erosion in Hungary. Instead of standing for the rule of law, they strike lucrative crypto deals in the Gulf. And instead of condemning coup attempts, they cozy up to those who lead them in places like Brazil. And U.S. leadership is in retreat. The president is pulling the United States from multilateral organizations and handing our empty chair to who? China. With UNESCO being the latest example. Our allies are issuing travel warnings not to come to the United States
you don't have any
after
World
seeing
Heritage
the
sites at
administration's
your,
assault
in
on
your state.
international students and arbitrary roundups of
that's
people they
UNESCO.
think look suspicious. And American household incomes and the dollar are both dropping as the president wages nonsensical and self-defeating trade war with the world. Our adversaries are watching all of this and celebrating. They see a United States that is disarming itself strategically, diplomatically, and morally. President Trump's petty, chaotic leadership, after yet another Oval Office meeting with a foreign leader turned into tabloid fodder, is signaling to the world that the United States foreign policy is not driven by values or national interests, but by a quid pro quo regime in service to one would-be king. Now is not the time to gut our diplomacy.
Kings, but
now
okay.
is the time to strengthen it. But the Trump administration has no process, no vision, or strategy to compete and win on the global stage. And it certainly won't achieve our strategic foreign policy goals on a shoestring budget with a hollowed-out staff. This administration's best explanation for all of this, a slogan, America first, that will only leave America last. Madam Secretary, I hope you'll be able to provide more than just slogans today. Thank you, and I yield back my time.
Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. We're pleased to have the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Allison Hooker, before us today. Your full statements will be made a part of the record, and I'll ask that you keep your spoken remarks to 5 minutes in order to allow time for member questions. And I now recognize you, Undersecretary Hooker, for your
That's
opening
right.
statement.
And they're not
Thank you
even
very much,
friends of ours.
Chairman. Good morning, Chairman Mast, Ranking Member Meeks, and distinguished members of the committee. It's an honor to be before you today as Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. Since stepping into this role just over 6 weeks ago, I've had the opportunity to accompany Secretary Rubio on 3 overseas missions, 2 of which were in support of President
Why aren't
Trump.
you at home
These
doing your
early
job?
engagements were not ceremonial. They were urgent, high-level diplomatic efforts demanding precision, speed, and strategic focus. They reflect the President's clear directive that our diplomacy be focused, effective, and firmly grounded in America First principles. The President's bold approach could not be more timely. The United States
Who
faces
are these
a global
people?
landscape defined by intensifying strategic competition, destabilizing mass migration, transnational crime, unfair trade practices, and the challenges of forging durable partnerships in a rapidly shifting world.
They're just all a
Meeting
bunch
these
of
challenges
fucking
requires a
robots,
Department of
like
State that
Stepford
is leaner,
cabinet members
sharper,
or
and more
Stepford
responsive.
staff.
An institution built not for bureaucracy, but for results. Unfortunately, that is not the department we inherited.
What?
Let me be clear.
You
As a
just
former
shit on
former
everybody
civil
in the
servant
State
with
Department,
over
you
2
cunt.
decades of service, I have deep and abiding respect
Another
for the
aged
dedication
Barbie.
and talent of the
She's
department's
like a
workforce.
haggard Barbie.
Foreign service, civil service, locally employed staff, and others. But even the most skilled workforce cannot thrive within a system that is structurally flawed. For too long, our organization has been burdened
I don't know why
by
I expect more of
overlapping
women.
mandates,
I really don't.
unclear chains of command,
really don't.
and a proliferation
It's
of single-issue offices
and it's like Joe
detached
Pesci.
from our broader national
GP.
priorities.
We're all like Joe Pesci.
As the Deputy Secretary of Management and Resources testified
Do you think that's
before this
funny that
committee
you
last
can't
week, when
read?
Secretary Rubio unveiled the reorganization plan on April 22nd, the department had more than 1,500 domestic office units. That's an astonishing figure for an agency whose central mission is to represent American interests overseas. With this complexity has come a lack of accountability to the president and ultimately to the American people. When lines of responsibilities blur
Needs a
and
keratin
decision-making
treatment.
is spread across multiple actors, it becomes hard to ensure that the department's work is fully aligned with the priorities of the elected leadership. This undermines not only efficiency, but also the most essential democratic principle, that our government agencies
Hey,
must be
Josh.
responsive and accountable to those they serve. Calls for reform are nothing new, but this time reform is not theoretical. It is happening. Under the leadership of President Trump and Secretary Rubio, we are executing a fundamental transformation of the department, one rooted in achieving operational effectiveness and institutional accountability. This reorganization was never about individual people or positions. It was about structure and strategic alignment. And at the heart of this transformation is the empowerment of our regional bureaus, and through them,
You're
our
a
posts
hateful
overseas.
bitch, and you're gonna burn in
By
hell. How about
consolidating
that,
policy
Allison?
tools under our regional bureaus, we are creating single
Fucking
lines
bitches.
of
God, I hate
accountability
these
that
people.
will allow us to move faster, speak with greater clarity, and deliver more impactful results.
Let me check.
These changes will ensure that our diplomacy is no longer driven by dozens of different offices with competing priorities and authorities, but by a mission-focused core, fully empowered and aligned with the President's priorities. As part of this effort, we are also taking bold action on
She
foreign
has
assistance.
experience.
For too long, development projects have lacked local buy-in, delivered limited impact, or reflected ideological agendas rather than U.S. strategic
She's a North
interests.
Korea expert.
In the process, we've
Hold on.
alienated partners and created openings for our competitors to expand their influence. That era is over. As of July 1, ongoing foreign assistance programs of the United States Agency for International Development have been transitioned to the Department of State. This
She worked
historic
for the Global
transition brings
Taiwan
us
Institute.
into alignment with how most of our allies
Here's her
operate,
bio. I'll send
and
it.
enables us to treat foreign assistance not as a siloed enterprise, but as a core tool of U.S. foreign policy. This does not mean the United States is stepping back from the world. On the contrary, we remain the largest provider of foreign assistance globally.
No,
But
fuck
moving
you.
forward,
Stop it.
every dollar
You don't get
we
to say
invest
that anymore,
abroad
you
will be
cunt.
treated exactly as that, an investment. An investment in American security, an investment in American jobs, and an investment in our great nation's strength. Under President Trump's leadership and with Secretary Rubio's clear direction, we are executing an America First foreign policy that is principled, pragmatic, and unapologetically
There you go.
focused
There's a little
on
bit
delivering
about
for the
background
American
on her.
people. The challenges are immense, but so is our resolve.
She
And
was a
now we have an institution
Wow.
designed to meet this
She is a
moment.
fucking
I'm deeply honored to serve in this role
bootlicker is
and
what
to help
she is.
drive this transformation forward. I look forward to working with Congress in our shared mission to safeguard U.S. interests on the global stage. Thank you, and I welcome your questions.
Thank you, Secretary
Exactly,
Hooker.
Max. Why
Now
do
gonna
we
recognize
forget
member
that?
alternating between Republican and Democrat sides for 5 minutes of questioning. I'm going to begin by recognizing my colleague, the 435th most important member. if I-
435 on the chart, number one in your heart.
Number
Mr.
one in my
Chairman.
heart. Very good.
Thank you, brother, and I want to thank
Oh, is this
ranking member,
Burchett?
my fashion consultant, and my workout partner. It's always good to see him here.
Gross.
He's an inspiration to me in the workout room. Thank you, ma'am. I kind of feel like the Jeffersons
It is
theme
Burchett.
song. I'm
I
kinda
knew it
moving
by
on
that
up
stupid
because This is
voice.
the second day in a row I've been the first person
Oh
to
no, this
ask
is a
dadgum
congressional
question, so I'm
circle
kinda fired
jerk.
up
No,
about
they
that,
are
Mr. Chairman.
literally
So
petting
my
each
question
other
will not be asked
on the
50
pants.
times by the time I get to it. So thank
Yes,
you,
her
ma'am.
name is Hooker.
How do you plan to stop things like foreign aid from going to stuff like
Yep, Grease
drag
Lisa,
shows in
another
Peru?
aggrieved white person.
You know,
that's exactly who
I always
that
hear, well,
cunt
that's
is.
just a small amount of money. But, you know, when you're talking tens of
And
millions
now
of
she gets to
dollars,
wield her
dadgummit,
power
people in
over
East
the State
Tennessee,
Department.
they'll never see that kind of money in their lifetimes. And to me, it just is very discouraging.
What?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. And this is a huge concern of ours, and one of the main reasons that
He
those
works
steps have been
out.
taken to transition our foreign assistance programs and those who govern our foreign assistance into the regional bureaus.
Why is
This
GP's
is one of the
Oh, I
chief
see.
objectives we've been trying to achieve. You've mentioned just one program. There are dozens of these programs that would make your hair stand up. And I'm happy to give a list of those if
Yeah,
you'd like
do.
to see additional ones. But
I think he was the butt
I would
toucher.
like for you to get that to me as well in something printed form. I'd
Oh,
appreciate that.
brother.
ma'am.
yes, sir.
I always ask that, and they always agree and say, oh, I'm going to get that to you, and I never get it. So I'd appreciate that, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Well, I've got a good staff sitting behind me. They're taking notes, and we'll make sure to get that to you.
Thank you.
But, sir, just to underscore, this is one of the main objectives of moving foreign assistance into the bureaus, so that we do have political leadership governing these programs. And not only are they going to not implement these type of programs.
Wait, did she just say that they want to make sure they have political leadership over these programs? Is that what she just said? I just want to make sure I heard that right.
With hard-earned American taxpayer money, but they're also going to be able to tailor programs to have the maximum impact in the regional area of responsibility that these bureaus cover.
Oh, are they child development
with
experts?
the reorganization, as Chairman Mass referred to in his
Are they
opening remarks as
malnutrition
well,
experts?
we're going to make sure that our foreign assistance serves American interests.
Are they gender
and
inclusion
also,
experts? Are they
something that
financial
American
development
taxpayers can be
experts?
proud of.
Do y'all have the appropriate channels to conduct oversight and
mean, I
provide
just wonder.
transparency when it comes to foreign aid?
There
Yes, sir.
already is transparency. I'm so angry about this. There's fucking grant reports.
That's part of.
Why
again,
isn't
part
anybody
of
saying
moving
anything? Why
the
isn't anybody
assistance
saying
programs
anything?
That had been
Oh,
conducted under USAID into the department, under the regional bureaus, to make sure we have that kind of oversight.
Yes, ma'am.
You
listed
have
about
oversight.
3 bureaucracies there, and that always scares me about the transparency. Are
Yeah.
y'all concerned about foreign service officers advancing their own agendas?
Thank you for that question, Congressman. The way
Yeah,
that
I
we've
agree, Carrie.
structured this is to make sure that all of these programs are being implemented and conducted under political leadership, not just within the regional bureaus.
See, this is an
but
important
our
point.
ambassadors overseas. They're answerable to the president. They are the president's representative
What?
in each of the countries that they've been dispatched to.
We have a king?
So I am
We have a king?
confident that both foreign service officers,
Oh my
civil
God, this is
service
just so
officers,
depressing.
and locally employed staff who will be implementing these programs as well will be able to
And
do
yet-
so in a form that, again, the American people
please
can be
share the
proud of.
broadcast. I
Y'all,
think more people need to see
How
it.
can you take more of the approach of take a man to
I don't understand
teach a
why I
man to
can't
fish
get
approach? I
traction
love
on
to
this
fish,
fucking
but I
website.
love
I'm
that
sorry. I'm
analogy.
pissed.
Are
I
y'all
am
doing
so
that more
pissed.
now than just putting people in a food line?
I'm almost ready to just say
Yes,
fuck it. I'm just
Congressman,
going to
thank you
go.
for
I'm
that
going to
question.
retire and do
Indeed,
my
that is another
retirement like a
objective
retirement
of
person
our foreign
does.
assistance going forward, that we're able to graduate countries
'Cause
that
this
we
is just
provide
fucking
assistance
ridiculous.
to, from just being dependent on that assistance to be able to provide for themselves, or that regional partners are also able
I
to
do
pick
not
up
need
part of
this
the
shit.
burden. The objective is that we will no longer
Fucking
have
fakes and
long-standing
fucking
dependencies.
Fake
on
motherfuckers
US
get so
foreign
much more
assistance,
attention
but
than
that these
this
countries,
stuff.
as I said, would graduate from those programs.
God, it
The two
just
things
drives me
I would hope that we
insane.
promote, this isn't in my notes, but I think we used to do a really good job of this before we got, I think, led astray, is we should promote democracy, and I think we ought to promote capitalism. I think we've done a pretty poor job of that in the past, and I would hope that would be at the top of y'all's agenda. I think that's a couple of things that, at least in the
This is so
early years, we
dumb.
did a pretty dadgum good job of. So
Concerns about that, because Deputy Secretary Regas have said that the State Department's reorganization puts regional bureaus in posts
I think we are.
in the lead after single-issue functional offices like Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor Bureau, DRL, distorted foreign policy. They assured us
Right.
that the DRL's work isn't going away, but rather being transferred to regional bureaus. Now, I'll start out by saying I have serious concerns about that, because DRL was one of those departments that has enjoyed bipartisan congressional support for decades, where we not heard any of some of the things that are said now. Now, because some of the restrictions I have in time, I've got a few yes or no questions I would like to ask.
You're right. Lucy's mommy, you don't have to retract that.
so
You're
that I
absolutely
could
right.
really understand
Like,
how you did
literally.
this. Do you have a written
It
plan
was such bullshit.
for
It's not
absorbing
true. I'm sorry
the
that the
work
message
formerly
stays on the
done
screen.
by
Sorry about that.
DRL into the regional bureaus?
Thank you, Chairman, Ranking Member, for that question. Each bureau is going to tailor its programs to meet the needs of the
But my question is, do you
area.
have one
Be
now?
specific, bitch.
Each regional bureau is formulating their plans for each of these
So the answer
approaches.
to that is no. I have limited time. So the answer is that as of right now, you said
It's
this,
in
but
process,
there is
sir.
no plan, right?
I
There's
said
nothing
it's in
that you can
process,
provide
sir.
now. But as of right
This
now,
is
there's no
ridiculous.
plan. Let me ask this question then. Did you consult senior DRL officials or stakeholders before
You're fine. We love you.
making these changes?
Sir, as Deputy Secretary Regas shared, there was great consultation taken throughout
Again,
the
that's just a yes or no. Did you consult senior DRL officials or stakeholders before
Consultations
making these
took place.
changes? Because it seems to me there's no plan now. So
There-
I guess the answer has to be that you have not, and some of them are gone. So to make sure that you're doing something serious as far as policy is concerned, to continue that.
What he's talking about is the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor. That's what the department is that he's talking about. That bureau. It's a big one.
work, you're already handicapped. If there's no plan now, you just decided we're going to cut it, you didn't make a decision, there was no determination that it was no need for it, you absorbed it, there was no consultation with senior DRL officials or stakeholders before deciding to make these changes. So there's nothing that you can provide because
No,
we
we're
have
just taking
oversight
the
committee to
resources,
this
Neil.
committee
That's all
so
we're
that
doing.
can
We don't
look
give
to
a
see
shit about
whether there was
making
something
democracy
intelligently
anywhere.
done or not. Well, let me ask this question. Did you absorb any staff formerly assigned to DRL into the regional bureaus? Was any staff absorbed, former staffs?
Sir, each of these functions are going to continue in the bureaus.
It's a simple
No, they're
question.
not. You're not
You just
answering the
asked me.
question,
to
cunt.
perform these functions in the regional bureaus.
Was any
That's my
formerly assigned to the DRL, were any of them absorbed into the regional bureaus?
I'm happy to get back to you with a list of officers that are going to be performing these duties going forward.
So I
Oh,
have to
the
make
answer is
presumption that
no.
none of the individuals who have the
Ew.
expertise, who knew what was going on
Ew,
with
it's
reference
not.
to DRL, none of them have been absorbed. And so therefore, there is a great number of a brain drain that has taken place as a result of the 1,300 people at the State Department that was left on. So now let me move
that's
on
it.
because time is running
Bing,
out.
ding, ding,
In
ding,
your
ding.
opening statement, you said, when lines of responsibility blur and decision-making is spread across multiple actors, it becomes
totally
harder to
do.
ensure that the
I totally
department's
do.
work is
Carrie, you
fully
nailed
aligned
it.
with the priorities
My
of
job is to
elected leadership.
interpret the chat.
Do you think government agencies should reflect the priorities of elected leaders? Yes or no?
Yes.
That's it. Max has it. Remaking the
And
U.S. to be like Hungary.
That's because elected leaders represent the will of the American people. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a July 18th New York Times article describing a cable from Secretary Rubio instructing the department's workforce to, and I quote, avoid opinion on the fairness or integrity of an electoral process, its legitimacy, or the democratic values of the country are in question.
So ordered.
And I see that my time is just about expired, so I will give you additional questions, Madam Secretary, because I have a bunch more about the draft, who did it, and who, you know, whether it was you, whether it was Secretary, or you had any part of it, as well as some other things. So I have much more to talk to you about. And hopefully, when our office sends a letter or a phone call to request to have these dialogues and conversations with you, that we will get a response back, because we do have oversight committee responsibilities as being a member of the United States Congress and the Foreign Affairs Committee. Both Democrats, both Republicans and Democrats has that responsibility. Thank you, and I yield back, Mr. Chair.
Chair now recognizes Representative Issa.
You know, I adore my ranking member because there wasn't time for you to answer most of the questions fully.
These functions mean to streamline.
We won't argue whether it's achieved all of its missions or not. Isn't that the mission that your
Yes, Carrie.
administration is
Hell yeah.
redirecting now for the rest of the aid program to meet those same criteria that we broadly created a whole separate corporation to do?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. Yes, but as I mentioned in my opening statements, the efforts that we have taken, that Secretary Rubio, that the President has taken, is meant to streamline these functions, to streamline these opportunities. If we have multiple siloed efforts underway, it takes more time to implement, and
Madam Secretary, I couldn't agree with you more.
Excuse me?
And I want to narrow the question because I believe that you've just begun to do the right thing. I believe that Millennium Challenge Corporation was the right idea, except that I question today whether or not, when we're competing for hearts and minds and for effective helping of foreign countries, if that stated goal shouldn't be for one agency under the Secretary of State combined. So I'm delighted to see USAID rolled back into state.
It always was
During
part
the
of
Trump
state.
one administration, I was designated as the Trade Development Agency head. I would hope that we would do the same thing even further with the other fundings and loan programs. But you said something that I think is very important. You said that things should serve America's interest. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions. They're mostly yes or no. One, is America's interest in alleviating poverty with those countries that if our money were added, we would help them do that?
What?
Meaning,
What
you
is-
don't
yeah.
put the money just anywhere, you put it where it can make a difference.
yes,
Oh my
that's
God.
what our assistance programs are aimed to
Okay,
do.
and doesn't that mean
Oh
that
my
you
fucking
inherited
God.
a countless amount of
Oh my God.
overlapping programs that have been around for a very long time that had not achieved their goal, were not achieving their goal, and in some cases with countries that were not currently structured to benefit from that money?
What?
So this is
How does
this is
that work?
exactly the
What about the
goal
people?
of the reorganization as it relates to foreign assistance.
Wow, this woman is a
programs,
real
by putting the foreign
cold-ass
assistance
fucking
programs
cunt.
into the State Department under the governance of the
Yeah,
regional bureaus,
oversight is when you
being
forget to
executed overseas with oversight from the ambassadors who have been empowered to make sure these programs meet
yeah,
the needs
okay.
that they were intended for.
This is their big idea. They want the ambassadors and the diplomatic staff to be the ones implementing all the programs. So do your job as diplomats, but then also run education, financial literacy, healthcare, other programs, pro-democracy, blah, 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 marketing of the United States, whatever it is you want to do. That's what they want them to do. They want them, they're basically taking what was an entire department and multiple grants and saying, you, ambassador, you and your staff, do all these things. That's what she's trying to tell you is what she's doing. And of course, that's not what's going to end up happening. They're just getting rid of this work. That's all. I mean, can we just fucking be honest about this? They're just getting rid of the grants and the grant staff. That's it. This work isn't going anywhere. It's not going to happen anywhere else. And I don't know why we can't demand honesty. Why is that? Why is that?
That's exactly the goal of Secretary Rubio.
Now, if I can use my remaining
It's
time
so
to be a little
dumb.
specific
Like, how in
and
the world does that
parochial.
make any sense to anyone?
Recently, there was an effort on the House floor in
exactly.
appropriations to defund the Lebanese armed forces in their effort to basically to
Is this a pet
eliminate
project of yours,
Hezbollah's
Isa-
ability to
Isa?
regenerate itself and threaten its neighbors. The State Department has continued, along with DOD, the funding of the Lebanese armed forces, along with other aid to Lebanon in that effort. Do you stand by that as a good investment in a country trying to emerge from being an occupied state?
Sir, thank you for that question. As is true across the region, in the Middle East, the president is aimed at seeing a ceasefire across all of the conflicts that are going
Tammy.
on.
Good
As you
morning.
probably are aware,
Welcome.
Ambassador Barrick is very much engaged in Lebanon and working on,
And Syria. I appreciate him being
Syria.
special envoy to both.
and Ambassador to Turkey. He wears multiple hats, as many do in our organization. But he's very much engaged in that, and it's the goal of the administration to ensure that the region returns to stability, peace, and prosperity in the future as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yield back.
Thank you, Congressman.
I think that was
Chair
his
now
pet
recognizes
project.
Representative Sherman.
Madam Secretary, I hope you'd focus on the aid that Armenia needs as a result of well over 100,000 people being ethnically cleansed from Artsakh and now living in Armenia. And I hope that you direct our ambassador to Pakistan to visit Imran Khan in prison to demonstrate our dedication to the rule of law and to visit Dr. Afridi.
I
This
knew
is
it.
in prison.
I knew it,
This
Leigh.
is the man that did more for America than any foreigner since Lafayette, and he languishes in a Pakistani
They
jail.
recognize it,
He
Grace
helped us
Lisa.
get bin
They
Laden.
just, they don't want
Now,
it.
I'm inspired by our chair.
They want to take the
he talks
resources
about
from
Congress
any country
not
they can.
doing its
That's
job
what
for
we
15
want now.
years, and not
We don't wanna
focusing
help
on how
anyone.
the State Department was run. I was here.
We want to help ourselves.
I was here for the 20 years. We did, and if you'd watched us on C-SPAN 3, you would have seen Congress do a good job. But today's Congress has been canceled because congressional leadership needs 6 weeks to figure out an excuse for not revealing the Epstein files or limiting those revelations only to the very few papers that are in the grand jury testimony. The chair talks about measurable outcomes. I've been here for 30 years. How many times before today have we canceled Congress in order to carry out a pedophile protection project? Zero.
Ouch.
It's measurable until now.
Ouchie, ouchie.
But measurable
Ouchie,
outcomes, you don't get that
ouchie.
way by looking at 1/10
Ooh, that
of
hurt.
of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1% and finding one mistake or even a collection of a few mistakes that the State Department and the USAID made. If we did that, we'd cancel the Dodger season because they committed an error last night. Measurable outcomes. We've got the Center for Global Development measuring that 3.3 million people will die this year because of the gutting of USAID.
Yep.
We've got
we've
Boston
seen that
University demonstrating that 300,000 people have already died as a result of that.
tracker. More.
We've got the Secretary, Rubio, coming to the table you're sitting at there and saying 0 people have died. Do you stand by the Secretary in saying that when the richest man in the world took food and medicine from the poorest people in the world, that has resulted in 0 deaths? Because we want measurable outcomes. Is it 0?
Thank you,
Is it zero?
Congressman, for that question. And
I'm
very
asking,
much stand
I
by
asked a
the
yes or no question. Madam Secretary, I asked a yes or no question. I want a yes or no answer. If you don't want to do that, I'll simply go on.
You're asking me to
Do you
say-
stand
restate
by
the
the
question.
statement of the Secretary of State that 0 people have died in the world as a result of the gutting of USAID? Do you stand by it or not? Yes or no?
Thank you, Congressman, for your question. I stand by what Secretary Rubio says.
Thank you.
And
That's a yes,
Thank you,
okay.
because I've got more questions.
expound if you give me an
I
opportunity.
would point
Nope.
out that those people will
Nope.
die chiefly as a result of malaria, AIDS, and tuberculosis. That disease
supports our
will
farmers.
infect
You're right,
millions
Karen.
of people
Teresa.
in poor countries. It will then replicate, mutate, and migrate back here in stronger form. And I know, so I want to ask the question, the State Department has no system to measure how many Americans will die when this more virulent disease comes here, because the richest man in the world took medicine away from the poorest. But we've got U.S. taxpayer dollars buying 500 metric tons of emergency food that was destroyed by the State Department. That's measurable. And 80,000 doses of Mpox vaccine that were pledged to African nations are about to be destroyed. Are you focused on how we're going to literally burn taxpayer dollars by burning vaccine that is in the State Department warehouses?
I'm focused on all these things.
Oh.
Thank you. Well, I
Really?
hope you
Focused
will
on
give us a
making sure they
measurable
get
result
destroyed?
and tell us what the cost is of the loss, the burning already of the 500 metric tons of emergency food and the 800,000 dosages of Mpox vaccine. Please respond for the record how many taxpayer dollars were burned. Finally, Carrie Lake testified before us that we couldn't trust the viewership and listenership numbers from Voice of America. Can we trust those numbers? They are measurable. Do you trust the numbers as to what the listenership was?
I'm not sure that's relevant to the P family issues, but I'm happy to take
Public
that question.
diplomacy is very much part, and you can't do public diplomacy without broadcasting. Of course, we're going to try, having gutted Voice of America and its sister stations. I'll point out that those were also Trump administration numbers that Carrie Lake said we couldn't trust. So it's
Exactly.
glad to know who she trusts. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Chair now recognizes Representative Moylan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Especially now as we're working with the State Department reorganization bill, it's essential that we do hear from the Bureau of Political Affairs, which serves, of course, I appreciate you coming on over and your deep experience in East
drunk,
Asian
sir?
affairs.
Are you
and
drunk, sir?
Given Guam's critical role in the region, I look forward to working with you very closely. Now, when it comes
All
to
these
East
guys
Asia
are
and the
so
Pacific,
hesitant.
of course,
Like they just
the
woke up.
PRC is there, and it's a great threat. They're undermining our maritime security and critical minerals, and we have great vulnerability in our supply chain. And we're confronting a broad, complex range of issues. So it's important that we have, especially this bipartisanship with our allies. And it's undeniable that we really need to work closely with ASEAN and Quad and ACUS and US, Japan, and the Philippines, the trilateral cooperation there for our economic stability in this region. So therefore, it's significant that the Secretary reaffirm our Indo-Pacific focal point of the U.S. foreign policy during ASEAN's conference.
It's like someone just handed him the page and he's like, oh,
the role
this
of
is
your
new.
bureau is to
You know,
analyze
like,
this
fuck.
regional dynamics and crafting strategies and effective engagement. So that's why I'm so happy that you're doing this overhaul and streamlining our strategies and looking at our resource
happy
allocations across
that you ended
the
all this
department
work.
so we can enhance
Yes,
our
it
engagement
is very
with
North
our foreign
Korea.
partners. So Undersecretary there, I want to ask you a question. Now, which regions and types of operations
I'm here for
should
the Democrats.
be
I don't want to even
prioritized
listen to these guys.
to effectively counter China's influence?
Congressman, thank you for that question.
Yikes. That's like
also
a
for the opportunity
catchphrase.
to respond.
Did you hiccup? Are you drunk, ma'am?
And I, very focused
Those
on
little
East
bottles of
Asia
vodka.
throughout my entire career.
Is that what those are?
But what I've truly enjoyed, not just over the past 6
Infective, yeah.
weeks as I've taken this role, but also my previous work in the first Trump administration, looking at how we are mobilizing our efforts to compete with
No,
China
but he just- he
around
was-
the
he
world.
was not familiar
it's not
with
just
the
about
subject
the
matter.
Indo-Pacific, it's about our engagement globally.
Him
So
too,
thank you
Grace Lisa.
for your focus on this as well. You noted the ASEAN conference that we just attended recently. I had the privilege of going with Secretary Rubio and being with him for all of those engagements. And as I mentioned in my opening statement, these were not just ceremonial, they're very urgent. We're talking about urgent issues like supply chains and
That's right, Max.
overseas scam
Trans-Pacific
operations that are
Partnership
targeting not just
was a great
Americans,
thing.
but our allies and partners as well. So it's important, and the reason we're here today is to speak about the reorganization and its impact. But what we've done to reorganize the department, focusing power underneath the regional bureaus and also our embassies overseas really gives the purview to the leadership to be able to plan for competition, not just in Indo-Pacific, but around the world. So we're working very closely with each of the bureau leads and with our ambassadors to ensure we're able to do that.
Thank you. And you served as the special assistant for the Korean Peninsula at the National Security Council during the first Trump administration. As North Korea continues to pose serious threat in the region, how would you characterize the current administration North Korean policy compared to that time?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. Well, I think we can all agree that North Korea continues to pose a threat, not just to the United States, but to the world through its long-range missile program, through its nuclear program. And we are very much paying attention to that, as are our allies in the region. Some of the things we're doing, we're working with
This
the
is Beasley?
trilateral
Oh,
engagement
Mrs.
with
McCain
Japan
interview.
and Korea. We're increasing deterrence with both of those allies, also working with our Indo-PACOM colleagues to make sure that we can defend the American homeland from any of those
Yeah, I know,
threats.
Josh, me too.
And so I look
We've
forward
got
to
two
continuing to work on
potentials.
that with Secretary Rubio and with the president going
What a
forward.
terrible place
And
to have
thank you
to
for your
sit.
interest in that issue, and I'm happy to stay in touch with you as we develop those plans.
I appreciate that very much. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Chair recognizes Representative Barra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary
I
Hooker.
really don't want it
I
for
don't
those
know you, and
ladies,
we've not met, so I'm going to
mostly.
give you my observations.
And us.
Prior to coming to Congress, I was medical director of care management for 5 hospital systems, thousands of employees. Then went to the public sector, was chief medical officer for Sacramento County. Again, 1,000 employees, multiple departments. It's not the same magnitude as the State Department or the United States federal government. But when we did reorganizations, and I'm not against taking a look at programs, looking at efficacy, looking at where we are, we didn't just lay off all the employees. We looked at the folks that we had, looked at their talents, evaluated where they were, came up with a plan, understood what that plan was, what that reorganization, and then where it was appropriate, matched that. We've had several hearings here asking if you would provide us what that strategic plan is, what that looks
Oops,
like,
what Max
how you're
wrote.
evaluating personnel, who's getting laid off, who's not getting laid off. Again, I appreciate your 2 decades of service. And I'm sure you've worked with foreign service officers, you've worked with men and women that represent the United States of America around the world. I think these are patriotic Americans. I think these folks have been mistreated. I think what DOJ did immediately, laying people off, bringing them back, laying them off, bringing them back, was haphazard, it was dangerous, and it's reckless. Again, I'm not sitting up here saying we shouldn't rethink what diplomacy and development in the 21st century looks like. Clearly, the world is
But
different
no one
today
is
than it
stopping
was
him,
in the
Carrie.
75 years post
So
World
that
War II.
means he's
But we
doing
did
what
this
they
in a
want.
bipartisan way. What we did after World War II was quite remarkable, creating peace and stability. What we did winning the Cold War in a bipartisan way with Congress, not Democrats and Republicans, but American strategy, was quite remarkable. We won the Cold War without actually going to war. What I would argue is what's happening right now is being done in a partisan way with the executive branch, not involving Congress. I appreciate the chairman's desire to do a State Department authorization bill. I appreciate the markup that we had yesterday. And I would urge the administration to work closely with Congress, because if all you do is reorganize diplomacy and development by yourself, we will get the White House one day, hopefully in 3 years. We will get the majority one day, hopefully in a year and a half. We don't want to keep going back and forth. We want to come up with an American strategy that's not a Republican strategy or a Democratic
However,
strategy.
we will
One that
reverse every
reflects the world that we
motherfucking thing you've
live in
done.
today. You talked about those challenges: mass migration, trade practices,
Climate
economic
change.
practices that don't reflect today's world, transnational crime, just to name a few, war in Europe, modernizing what NATO looks like, avoiding World War III in Asia. Those are all hugely important things that we have to do to best protect the American people. Again, I would urge you, Secretary Hooker, to work with us on this, to think about what that looks like, to look at the efficiency of programs, to create new programs. You know, I appreciate my colleague from Tennessee saying, you know, we don't want to just give folks fish, we want to teach them how to fish. That is going to run into huge political challenges.
That's what they do.
Because
Those
many of my
grants
red
did
state
that. They
Republicans
taught people
have
how to
programs
fish.
that support farmers to
They
have
weren't
them
just
grow
giving
food to
fish.
send that food overseas. I would much
No-
rather we
no
take our
program
best scientists,
under
have them go to
USAID
Africa,
just gave
look
shit
at,
away.
the best modern
That's not
farming
the way it
practices,
works.
teach them how to farm and feed themselves. That would be a much better
That's
way to alleviate
everything
hunger in
oh my
Africa.
God.
That isn't how
It's
the
just
political
so-
system's been set up
they're so
in the United
stupid.
States.
Everybody's stupid.
I would much rather us think about global health security and ways to reorganize that so we don't have malaria over here.
Why don't they
tuberculosis
have
over
good
here, HIV over
spokesmanship
here. But
for
is there a better way to do
USAID
this?
on this side?
Again,
You know,
I
the
would urge
Democrats
you
do
to
not
work with
represent
Congress,
what
with
actually happens in
Democrats and
USAID
Republicans
well.
to think
Period.
about
They
what
haven't
a
since this
modern
whole
State
thing began.
Department, modern aid and development look like, how we work through the interagency
They should have been
operations.
holding.
But I
I'm
would
going to stop
also
him.
urge you to not
Democrats should have been holding information sharing sessions with multiple agencies and fired employees from those agencies. That should have been top of mind for Democrats over these last 6 months, to demonstrate and hear from the people on the ground about what happened and what their work was and how haphazard this entire thing was. But no, they just wrote strongly worded letters and asked people to commit.
haphazardly
I know, it was
lay
a
off
missed
some of our
opportunity. You're
best
right.
foreign policy folks, our best foreign service officers, the folks that are actually there to prepare you to do your job, to prepare Secretary Rubio to do his job. The folks that prepared you for that ASEAN conference, they've all been laid off. I just worry about how we're weakening the United States. We're weakening our role in the world. The world is a much better place with the United States. We should work with our allies and friends and modernize what that looks like for the 21st century. For the sake of our kids and our grandkids, we want them to have the same peace, prosperity, and stability as the world. So there's no question here. There's just advice. Work with us on this.
Why weren't they
Otherwise, we'll
doing
just
it
be going back and forth, and it'll weaken the United States. So thank you. I yield back.
Representative yields back. Chair recognizes Representative McCormick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today with us. I was kind of chuckling to myself to watch people kind of walk in here, ask you a bunch of questions, not allow you to answer, and then leave.
In the region. I will start highest priority to make sure that the American
I don't care about
people are
Republican
best
questions.
and well served, not just here domestically, but abroad, and that taxpayer dollars are being spent well and in a way that the American people can be proud of. This reorganization, as I mentioned in my opening statement, was not aimed just to respond to Representative Sherman's question, was not aimed at eliminating the expertise out of the State Department. The State Department is full of, remains full of very capable experts, people that I'm very proud to continue to serve with. The reorganization was aimed at reducing redundancies and to make sure that we've streamlined the policy process so that we can execute effectively and efficiently on the president's priorities, both at home and abroad. Thank you, Congressman, for your question.
And thank you. I just want to point out once again, just reinforce all that
I
money,
don't know.
DEI, musicals, operas, comic
Yes,
books,
Josh.
and transitions abroad. I rest my case with that. I yield.
Okay. Let's also talk about the ways where you can help communities welcome all members of their community, including trans people. And that in certain parts of the world, it's even more dangerous than it is here in the United States, believe it or not, to be a trans person. And so, yes, community groups based in different countries will go ahead and use things like comic books or art or therapy or other different modalities to help a community learn about each other and become a safer and more welcoming place for LGBTQ, for trans people. This is the way it works, folks. This is actually tried and true. The use of art in helping communities progress and create more safety for everyone intrinsically is through using things like art modalities to help a community come together and learn. So I am very offended by when these guys, these douchebags, these human testicles, don't understand how anything works. I would be embarrassed if I were a congressman and I didn't understand how development works. I don't think that should be a red flag. Primitive and just so full of hate. So full of hate. I am embarrassed. Of course I'm embarrassed. But there's, this is what we do. Like, oh, hi, Five Fists, how you doing? Yes, please smash the like. Anyway, like, this is how you change community mindsets around LGBTQ, around trans, around language, around how to, slurs and how to do that. That is how you shift community attitudes towards that, and you create more safety. And when you have a safer community, then you have a partner. That is your soft power, is that you've given something to the community to make the community healthier. That is what is critical.
Recognizes
Oh,
Representative
boy.
Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just note those are 6 programs of the over hundreds
I
and
guess
hundreds
so,
of programs
Jim. I
that
don't
the
know. In
State Department and
Greenland.
USAID
Never mind
implemented over
Greenland.
the years. I know as a former State Department employee myself. But Undersecretary Hooker, I wanted to ask you about the Global Fragility Act and the future of it in this administration. Last week, I questioned Deputy Secretary Regas on this, and as you may already be familiar, hopefully, because it's the law. The Global Fragility Act is a bipartisan landmark law that passed in 2019 that was designed to implement many of the lessons learned from years of costly and unsuccessful U.S. stabilization efforts in Iraq and Afghanistan and Somalia. It was designed to make foreign assistance more strategic and effective and more aligned with our policies, something that this current administration talks about. Congress has also made clear its continued bipartisan support. I recently introduced a reauthorization bill with Chair Emeritus McCall, and the House National Security Appropriations Bill just appropriated money
Which
for
has
GFA
worked for them, hasn't
implementation.
it, GP?
In response to my questions, Deputy Secretary Regas testified that GFA would now be implemented by regional bureaus, dismantling the CSO Bureau and firing all of its staff that had previously been in charge of implementing this. Undersecretary Hooker, given this, can you describe your plans to oversee the implementation of this landmark bipartisan law?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for your question. I did have the opportunity to watch Deputy Secretary Regas's hearing, and I do recall your question on that issue. And Deputy Secretary Deputy Secretary Regis's answer is still accurate. The regional bureaus will be performing the function of those offices.
Okay, and how will you ensure that
How?
this is a priority for regional bureaus to
How? Do you
implement
have the
and that
written
staff
plan?
with
Because you
relevant
should have a
conflict
written plan.
expertise and background on this legislation are leading its implementation?
Well, thank you, Congresswoman, for your follow-up question. The entire intention of the reorg was to make sure that regional bureaus are able to execute on just these kinds of issues.
No, I understand that that's the intention.
How'd you
I
do
want
the
to know
analysis on
how
that
you
so
plan on doing
fast?
that.
I plan on overseeing the bureaus and their leadership and making sure that not just this issue that is very important, but every other issue that we've talked about, some of which I had not had a chance to respond, that each of these issues will be integrated fully into each regional bureau. That's my responsibility, is overseeing the bureaus. And when it comes to specific issues, I'm happy to work with the senior bureau official to work with you so that you understand how that's being implemented going forward.
Okay, I appreciate that. Almost all of the GFA programs have now been canceled. So I guess what I would like is a
Why can they
written
lie?
plan
Why
to
do
this
they-
committee on how
Why
you
do they
plan on
lie?
actually ensuring conflict expertise is integrated into the P family, how you are planning on implementing the Global Fragility Act, including ensuring that conflict expertise is going to be housed and prioritized in the regional bureaus, and how you will be carrying out the monitoring, evaluation, and learning requirements, not just of the foreign assistance programs, but of the strategies themselves. Will you commit to providing that plan?
I commit to work with you and with the bureaus to
Nope,
provide.
she won't commit to providing
answers
a
to your
plan.
questions. To the region, we're very much on.
Sorry, this is key. All right, this is a key thing in every single congressional hearing that we've watched. A key component of each hearing is that they will not commit to any written plan or any report or evaluation work that was done as part of the gutting of government staff and government programs. This is a very important detail that I hope is not lost on history. Yes, Josh, go shower. We won't watch. But this is a very, very, very crucial point that each of them are very well trained on how to say, that they will not commit to anything in writing, anything, whether it be planning or how they analyzed programs in order to get to a decision point. That is absolutely unacceptable. These congressional committees have direct oversight, which means supervisory responsibility over these agencies. So it would be as if I, as an executive director or a head of an organization, is telling my board of directors, oh, well, I can't give you a plan. No, I'll commit to talk to you about what I'm going to do. That's not how it works in the real world. I mean, it's how it's working now in this world, but that's not acceptable. And that's authoritarianism, and it is not right. And it will not end up in something more beneficial for the American people, nor for the rest of the world. Wow.
The list of topics that we talked about in each of our bilateral meetings and ASEAN as a whole. I think this speaks directly to the intention of the reorganization in making sure that our East Asia and Pacific Bureau is empowered to have these kind of conversations with our bilateral partners in the region.
What happened to that
and that
case,
our ambassadors,
Carrie?
who are now
Remember someone was held
also more
captive
empowered
inside
to
the
use their
hotel or
embassies
something?
to engage on these topics, that they'll be able to do so going forward with great oversight over each of these
Yeah,
issues.
I think it's beneficial as we look at outbound investment restrictions in China. This is also a way to bring allies in the ASEAN closer to within our orbit.
Yeah, good luck.
I want to follow up with trade.
Good luck with that.
You mentioned trade. Critics of this administration's trade policy have argued that it risks alienating our allies and driving them toward Xi Jinping's so-called charm offensive. But that narrative totally ignores the reality on the ground. This,
Oh my
this
God.
announcement of this Indonesia trade agreement is a great example of how the narrative is inconsistent with the reality. Under President Trump's
How much
leadership,
more
we're
for
witnessing an
Indonesian products are we
unprecedented
gonna pay,
level of engagement, negotiation, and
Senator,
strategic alignment
Congressman?
with partners across the Indo-Pacific. Far from isolating the United States from these partners, this approach is
propaganda.
actually reinforcing our economic and security leadership while ensuring that
It's
trade deals are fair,
19% tariff
reciprocal,
on
and
Indonesian
beneficial to the American
goods.
worker. Can you speak to that, about how this trade policy is
This is
advancing
ridiculous.
our national security and leading to more, not less, economic integration with ASEAN in particular with this Indonesia deal?
Thank you, sir, for that question. You took the words right out of my mouth. We've seen multiple trade deals come through over the past few days. Japan was also announced this morning. The Philippines, following the Oval Office meeting between President Marcos and President Trump yesterday. Trade is just one tool in the toolbox that the president has, and that we're using this around the world. It's not just trade for trade's sake. I mean, the president has been very focused
Yes,
on
we've
restoring the
alienated
American
countries.
economy.
Yes, we have.
And this is one way to do that by focusing on trade, including through the use of tariffs.
We immediately, in one
the
fell
president-
swoop, made everybody our enemy. Immediately. We immediately made everyone an adversary. Can you imagine that? Is that very good? Is that good? How is that good? Is that a good thing? To make everyone your adversary? How is that smart? And does anybody who supports this, do they truly understand what the end result is of this type of strategy? Do they understand where this is going and what this means for them and their lives? No, they don't. Because they don't care, because America. And, they love rapists, I guess. I don't really know. I don't really understand it. I'm not sure how you adore a man who raped women and probably girls. So I don't know why you would support a child rapist to begin with, but then compound onto that these stupid economic policies that are going to serve a very, very small percentage of the world's richest people and will change our lives in terms of surveillance, privatization, incremental costs. All of those things are freedom, states' rights. Do they really understand what the end result is of this? Do they? Because I'd love to hear someone who supports Donald Trump tell me what they think the end result of this is. And why are they smarter than all of the economists? I really want to know. What is it you know that I don't, or any of the economists in the world with a working brain? Never mind the illegal kidnappings that happen on our streets. Never mind the trans children who cannot get the gender affirming care that they need in order to be who they are. Whether or not you agree with it, which actually is the antithesis of freedom, who gives a shit what you agree with? That's not freedom. Freedom is allowing people to make decisions for themselves, and that's families making decisions alongside their child. Freedom isn't just accepting what a government tells you about why you should hate drag queens. That's not freedom. That's just going along. That's true sheepdom. That you're not questioning any of this, that you're not questioning or looking for source information like we do on my show every day about how this actually does impact people. And if you can look in the face of that father with his 4-year-old skeletal child who just died because she starved to death in Gaza, and think that somehow our support of Israel's genocide is valid, for what reason I have no idea, then I don't even know who you are. And that to me is absolutely that's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker. But you know, that's the debate I want to have. Tell me why you think all those things are acceptable. Tell me what you understand about international development. Tell me what you understand about economics. Tell me what you understand about rule of law and the Constitution when you allow an insurrectionist president, which if you didn't look at the evidence, then I can't help you, right? Like if you're refusing to look at the evidence of how we got to that place, I can't help you. Then you're lazy. You're not doing your work. Please share the broadcast. Right, let's go.
Is able to correct trade imbalances, reduce deficits.
With
and
Brazil, where we
basically
had a
bring the
surplus,
American worker,
but now we have a
jobs
50%
back to
tariff
America.
on
But
it.
as you said,
Okay.
sir, this is another tool of our
Get
foreign
ready to
policy.
Get ready to pay more at Zara, kids, okay? Because Zara is a Brazilian company. So get ready to pay more for Zara. I mean, come on, do the math. God, what are you guys, idiots?
One final question
Apparently.
about the South China Sea. What form of diplomatic engagement is the department using to support the Department of Defense in the strategic pre-positioning of defensive assets across the Indo-Pacific theater? We've heard about the drawdown of Marines from Okinawa, repositioning in Guam. We do have these EDCA sites in the Philippines, Subic Bay. When can we get back? When can the Navy get back into Subic Bay? And what is the State Department doing
exactly, Max.
diplomatically to help the Department of Defense position assets for deterrence on a Taiwan scenario?
Thank you, sir, for that question. And on the specific movements, I will refer you to the Department of Defense. But to your question of how we're using diplomacy, our ambassador to the Philippines has been here for the visit of President Marcos, is meeting with President Trump. And she detailed to Secretary Rubio and myself this week just the work that she's doing to meet with all representatives. She has the authority of the president to operate in the Philippines, and so she's meeting with all representatives of the Philippine government to ensure that that diplomacy is taking place. And one final comment, that's been the entire purpose, one of the entire purposes of this reorganization, to make sure our ambassadors
Here's another
are
piece.
enabled and
This is another piece. Every question, she fits in this is the point of our reorganization. This is the point of our reorganization. It's just a very manipulative communication style that these folks have been trained to give, probably by Russ Vogt. Anyway.
power to do just that.
Thank you very much. My time has expired.
Yes, it-
Mr. Amo is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to our witness. President Trump's actions are sabotaging America's global standing. Illegally shuttering USAID, freezing foreign assistance programs, and haphazardly firing thousands of State Department employees has weakened our leadership on the world stage and damaged our relationship with our allies. Abandoning our partners and putting international agreements under review at the whim of the administration undermines our credibility and makes our allies less likely to work with us in the future. In June, President Trump announced a review of the Australia, United Kingdom, United States Security Partnership, known as AUKUS. This review erodes trust with two of our closest allies. It is contrary to the strong bipartisan support for AUKUS here in this Congress. Yesterday, our committee, this very committee, passed Representatives Kim and Dean's Bipartisan Armor Act, a bill that I am proud to co-sponsor that would streamline the work of AUKUS. But despite robust bipartisan support, President Trump is continuing to question our need for AUKUS, It makes me wonder why. So, Secretary Hooker, for this next few questions, please provide a yes or no answer. Do you agree that strengthening security and
needs to be a-
technological cooperation with
a
the United
switch in
Kingdom
leadership.
and Australia is good for our national security and supports a free and open Indo-Pacific?
I think there's several components to that that
But
it's
could you-
difficult to say
I've
yes
got
or
a few
no to
questions.
each one of them.
Pardon?
I said there are different components to that.
So
it's
is it
difficult to
yes
say
or no?
We are cooperating, so yes.
Great. As part of AUKUS Pillar 1, the Australian government committed to making a $3 billion investment in the U.S. defense industrial base, of which the first installment of $500 million arrived in February 2025. Is that true?
I'm not going to get into the specifics of AUKUS, but both the President and Secretary Rubio have expressed support for AUKUS, so I'm interested in
Well, I'm
the
going to
comments
continue
that
to
you
ask you some
made
questions
about
about
President
AUKUS,
Trump.
so, because the State Department
He,
has a
yeah,
role.
bitch.
So
Then you need
can
to pay
choose
attention to the
not
news.
answer. I would ask if it is an important thing for to continue to see Australia directly investing in the United States, contributing to our defense industrial base, and supporting good paying jobs across our country.
Yes,
This should be easy.
sure,
Great,
yes,
thank you.
Yes.
It seems very clear that the AUKUS partnership is essential for our national security and domestic defense industrial base. So, Madam Secretary, are you willing to commit to us right now that the administration will not pull out of AUKUS? Can you affirm that we will not reduce our commitments under AUKUS?
So that is not within my authority to be able to do today for you, but what I can say in response to your questions so far is that both the President and Secretary Rubio have expressed support for AUKUS, so I'd be interested in the quotes that you're
Then you
referring
should go
to,
look them up. You should Google
saying
it.
the President isn't supporting this, and actually, it's the Department of Defense having an internal review on AUKUS. Again, that's not my purview to speak about. I welcome.
Well,
I
the State
referred you
Department,
to my-
excuse me, the State Department does have a role, so don't abdicate the responsibility of the State Department here, because according to public reports, it appears that the Department of Defense is driving the review of AUKUS without the input from the Secretary of State. Shouldn't the State Department have input on one of our closest alliances?
The Secretary of State has said that if there is any review, that the State Department would take place in that. So that is not, I think we have a different view of the quotes that have been said by our leadership.
Well, look, I will tell you this. There is a disconnect here, and this is a challenge in the Trump administration. Because a question for you I have now is, did the Department of Defense give the State Department advance notice when the DOD initiated a review of AUKUS in June? Is the State Department participating?
Sir, thank you for your question. I will reiterate, the President and the Secretary of State have
That's not an
expressed
answer.
support for AUKUS. That's the
Did the
leadership
State
that I
Department participate
Okay,
in
so
the June
you,
review by the
agree-
to the
DOD?
Department of Defense on their any review
Did
they
the
might
State
be doing.
Department
Well, my
participate in
point
the
here
June
is,
review by the
the State
DOD?
Department has a role. You have communicated that you agree with me that this is an important agreement and alliance for our national security. So I am hoping that your words are connected to the actions of the President, the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of Defense in ensuring that we preserve this essential partnership for our national security and our priorities to our defense industrial
This is
base here, and
big.
so much more that is positive from international agreements, which have been challenged by this administration.
Gentleman's time
I
has
yield back.
expired.
Agree.
Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from Indiana, Mr. Baird, is now recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, and Madam Undersecretary Hooker, we appreciate you being here, appreciate the job that you do, and we want to make sure that we have
Whatever it
the
is.
United States well represented in some of these countries. But
Oh my God, he looks like an
I
undertaker.
really congratulate you on hosting a version of an
corpse.
African Leadership Summit, and that had the heads of 5 American nations recently visiting the Oval
5
Office.
American nations?
And those countries included Gabon, Guinea, Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal. And they focused on trade and investment opportunities.
No, they
So I'm
focused on
interested in what
making
your
those poor
takeaway
leaders
was,
tell
from
Trump
that,
how wonderful he was.
that meeting.
And for him
Thank you, Congressman.
This was great, and I particularly enjoyed this as someone who has lived in Liberia for a short period of time. When the Liberian president spoke, of course, the official language of Liberia is English. And there is a form called Liberian English, which is a little more like a colloquial and is used commonly. But the official language of Liberia is English. So everyone, pretty much, in Liberia speaks or understands, English. But the president, our president, who doesn't seem to know that, was effusive and condescending to the president of Liberia, saying, "Oh, you speak English, so oh, that's beautiful English. Oh," acting as if it's just shocking that, first of all, any African president wouldn't be able to speak English, and furthermore, that as a country that official language is English, blah blah blah. Yeah, so stupid. So anyway, that's my story about Liberia.
And for that question, we were very proud of this meeting taking place, and I think that it just demonstrates.
Sorry.
Gentleman
We skip ahead.
Chair recognizes Representative Kamlager Dove.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Ranking Member, and thank you, Undersecretary
Hey,
Hooker,
where did you
for,
learn to
being here
speak
today.
English? That's right.
So, Ms. Hooker, in your nomination hearing,
No.
you stated that your priorities as Undersecretary would be to strengthen our diplomatic workforce, reinforce our relationships with partners, and confront our adversaries with strength and resolve. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Congresswoman.
great. So I'd like to focus on how the Trump administration has measured up to those goals in South Asia. So I want to talk about Sri Lanka. Are you familiar with Sri Lanka?
Yes, I'm familiar.
Okay, great. And so I'm sure then you're aware that Sri Lanka's defaulted on its foreign debt in 2022 and owes significant loans to China, and China's capitalizing on Sri Lanka's inability to pay that debt by taking over control of key infrastructure. Yes, would you agree?
I'm aware of the circumstances.
Okay, great. So for Sri Lanka to repay its debt and avoid having to give up more strategic assets to the PRC, it needs to reform its economy and boost economic growth. So can you explain how the Trump administration's proposed 30% tariffs on Sri Lanka helps improve the country's economic outlook and its ability to repay its debt?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. President Trump's first priority is the American people and ensuring that our economic situation here at home is improving. One tool
Doesn't
in
that
his
mean
toolbox
Sri Lanka
for
should
doing
be a good
that,
trading
for improving
partner?
the economy, for ensuring there's balanced trade, are tariffs.
Right, so I understand that. So if the priority is the American voter and the taxpayer, are you saying that President Trump wants the American taxpayer to pay higher prices for goods?
Could you explain further?
Well, are you saying that the president wants us to pay more for the goods that we purchase?
I'm saying that tariffs are a tool in the toolbox when working with our individual
I understand that.
counterparts in other countries.
So yes. So are you committing that there will be a trade agreement reached with Sri Lanka by August 1st?
That, Congresswoman, is up to the government of Sri Lanka and how they negotiate that.
Well, but it's also up to us. And I'm raising this because I don't know what the president thinks, but I know my constituents in my district don't want to have to pay higher prices. And I also know that last I checked, we're not onshoring, or we're not trying to onshore apparel and garment industries. And we know that Sri Lanka is actually, responsible for manufacturing a lot of goods that American businesses sell to American consumers. And so it would make sense that we are able to keep those relationships with Sri Lanka. And in order for that to continue, They need some kind of support as a
That's how
partner
it
with us,
works.
an economic partner with us, so that they can keep those facilities and allow American businesses to continue to produce goods and sell to American consumers at a good price. So, can you commit to anything as it relates to Sri Lanka and this deal?
For the trade deals, I refer you to the Commerce Department and the USTR Ambassador Jameson Greer.
So, but
they are
how-
conducting those negotiations.
But how do the tariffs improve Sri Lanka's economic outlook with us, for us, in partnership with us?
Congresswoman, thank you for your question. As I mentioned, the tariffs are aimed at balancing trade. That's the president's objective, and that's how he's using them. On trade issues, again, I would like to refer you to my colleagues at the Commerce Department and USTR for the
But Ms.
details
Hooker,
of the trade
reclaiming
deal.
my time, I'm asking you these questions because according to your bio, you are the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. So you have responsibility, jurisdiction over all of the regional bureaus. You should be able to be talking about this from a policy standpoint to say what are the pros and what are the cons. I mean, I'm actually curious, listening to your testimony, about what you are actually responsible for.
Oh, I'm happy to talk about that.
I don't need you to answer that question, but I do want you to think about it. We also have challenges with the Maldives. PRC is making incredible inroads into that region with the Indian Ocean. Trump 1 wanted an embassy. Trump 2 is talking about closing down embassies.
I have to disagree on that point. There's no discussion of closing any embassies or any consulates abroad.
I don't know where you're getting that information. We've had multiple conversations about the administration wanting to close down embassies. I think in strategic regions, there should be some discussion. And I would think that your role is to actually bring up reasons why we would want to continue to have a presence in strategic regions where China is making inroads.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We are paying very close attention to that. I can tell you that there are no closures. I can tell you authoritatively that there are no closures planned at this moment. And it is my job to oversee each
At
of
this
the
moment.
regional
So you're
bureaus
committing that they're
Gentlelady's
not going to
time
close
has
any.
expired long
Thank
ago.
you, Mr. Chair. But I'm glad that the Undersecretary committed to us not closing down any embassies. So thank you,
Can I
Mr.
just,
Chair.
Chairman, may I finish my sentence?
No, you can't.
Please.
Thank you. It's my responsibility to oversee each of the bureaus, each of the regional bureaus and the Bureau for International Organizations, and yes, over all of their foreign policy. But as I said, and I'd just like to state clearly, for the specifics of the trade engagements, I refer you to the Department of Commerce.
You've said that
and also
already.
USTR.
You said that
Thank you for
already,
allowing
you
me to
stupid
finish my
cunt.
sentence.
Thank you for answering a paradoxical question of, I want to know what you actually do, but I don't want to hear you answer that question.
Oh,
That's
shut up,
nonsense.
Brian.
Representative Kim is recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Mast. Thank you for joining us today. I know
Secretary and the Deputy
No,
Secretary.
I'm not
as
listening
we
to her.
address each of those
She's from
issues.
California, and I hate her.
thank
Bye,
you.
Josh. I'll see you
yield back,
later.
Recognized
Thanks for
Representative
coming.
Jayapal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Madam Undersecretary. In your confirmation hearing, you stated that China was trying to, quote, reshape the global order. In your opinion, is it in our national interest to have our American bilateral and multilateral relationships overtaken by China?
I would disagree with the premise that they are.
I'm just asking you, in your opinion, I assume the answer is no, that it's not in our interest, and I agree with you. But in fact, that is exactly what the Trump administration is allowing to happen with all the cuts to USAID funding. As we slash foreign assistance, China is stepping up its investments in the Silk Road for too many countries. It's becoming the only place to turn to backfill previous U.S. investments. And General Michael Langley, the commander of U.S. Africa Command, stated that China is, quote, trying to replicate specific USAID programs in Africa that the United States has cut, and that this trend has been seen globally. Madam Undersecretary, are you aware of how the USAID cuts and Trump's isolationism have what they've done to America's and China's respective global favorability?
Congresswoman, I would disagree with the premise of multiple components of your statement.
Do you know what's happened to U.S. favorability relative to China's favorability?
In fact, we've had a great response in some of our countries that we're providing
Show
aid,
us
that
data.
we're moving from a dependency.
show us
Do you have
data?
any numbers for me?
Well, I can tell you that we're continuing our PEPFAR life-saving
I'm asking
program.
about
Oh, stop.
favorability. Are you aware that in January of
me the data.
2024, a year before Trump came into office,
You
the U.S.
monitor
favorability
everything,
rating
right?
was above 20 and China was in negative territory? And at the end of May, after just 5 months of Trump coming into office, China had a net favorability of 8.8 compared to negative 1.5 for the United States? Were you aware of that?
I'm not sure what the sources of your numbers are.
So you're not aware of that?
I'm not aware of the sources of your numbers.
Let me read you some statistics about how your administration's cuts will increase Chinese influence around the globe. Because of these cuts, Chinese investments in assistance programs will now surpass American investments in 40 more countries. China will now operate
it's the Pew
16
Research
more
Center.
diplomatic posts abroad than the United States. And if the president's budget request is enacted into law and the U.S. fails to pay its UN-assessed contributions, China would actually be the biggest contributor to the UN regular budget and UN peacekeeping operations. Is this what making America great again means to you, ceding America's global leadership in the world to China?
Congresswoman, at our funding currently, we remain the world's largest donor of
There's
aid.
the Pew Research.
Next to the next 10 countries, we are still the greatest
Madam Undersecretary, you may want to look at those statistics that I sent you and look at what these cuts mean. Would you agree that Mandarin language skills are a valuable tool for U.S. diplomats working on China and strategic competition issues? It's not a hard question, Madam Undersecretary.
No, I'm still wondering if we're going to be able to respond to some of the other
It's my
statements.
time, so you are welcome to send me a written response, but I'm asking you about Mandarin language skills. Do you think they're valuable?
We have Mandarin language skills at the Department of State, yes.
So you think they're valuable?
Yes.
And the department just fired over 1,300 staff to meet an arbitrary firing target. Do you know what % of the department's total Mandarin language capacity was lost in that RIF?
Congresswoman, the reorganization was not arbitrary, nor was it haphazard.
Do you
Really?
know how
Give us the
many
analysis then.
of the department's
Please.
total Mandarin
Please, I'd love to
language
see it.
capacity was lost in
I'm
the RIF?
unaware of that.
So you don't know even how we're staffing our relationship with China, and you're the Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs. Can you at least tell me if language skills, in this case Mandarin, weigh into the department's evaluation of individual staff that were RIF'd?
Thank you, and thank you, Congresswoman, for that question. The Office of China Affairs falls under my purview.
And you don't know how many, do you know how many people we have that speak Mandarin now?
I'm responsible for the diplomacy that is conducted out of the Office
And you
of
think diplomacy
China,
can be done without people that speak the skills?
and also the embassy. And I have confidence in our training programs at the Department of State.
Sounds like you're not really aware of what skills we have to actually build that relationship.
Time has expired.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Representative Shreve is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Secretary Hooker, for sharing some time with us
Damn,
this
we're
morning.
live.
I represent part of Indiana, and I've been working on a problem that's certainly a problem back in my district, back in my state, but more broadly across our country and beyond. And it's a problem that's growing briskly related to scam centers, these industrial-sized scam centers, so many of which are anchored in Southeast Asia. Following the COVID crackdowns,
God, she
some of
blows,
the bad actors
Teresa. Oh my God,
in,
she's
China
terrible.
pivoted from these illegal casinos and standing up these massive industrial-sized scam centers. And of course, some of my constituents have been bilked out of money as a consequence of these. Last year,
Are you saying
the
you-
reported losses were $125
You
billion.
represent
These
a bunch
are
of-
chronically underreported because it's
Never mind.
embarrassing when people are bilked out of money from these scam centers. Last month, I led on a letter to Secretary Rubio highlighting the need for action before the crisis spirals further out of control and offering our assistance in fighting this. And I was thankfully joined by 23 other members of this committee in that letter to Secretary Rubio. So it's got broad recognition that this is a spiraling challenge, which should be made more so as AI makes it even harder to discern the real from the scamming.
Gosh, it almost feels
And so
like you
my
should regulate it, doesn't it?
Of you is simply
Dick face.
how is state working to address this transnational crime issue comprehensively?
Thank you, Congressman, for that question. As I mentioned earlier, Secretary Rubio just attended the ASEAN Regional Forum in Kuala Lumpur. And this issue was a focus
Yeah, didn't he
point
meet
of
with
our
like Kim
conversations
Jong-un
with
or something?
allies and
Didn't he like
partners
shake
in
his
the
hand or
region
something?
and
I
of
don't know.
ASEAN as a whole.
Maybe I'm wrong.
In fact, in his conversation with Prime Minister Anwar of Malaysia and with his other bilateral engagements, he spoke specifically about this issue and the need to counter it. There's a consolidated, unified approach from ASEAN to deal with this. So we're going to work bilaterally with the countries where this is where these kind of scam centers are operating. Going to work bilaterally with them and also work with ASEAN to address the issue. And very much appreciate your letter and your interest on this subject.
Well, thank you for that. Are there additional statutory authorities that state is looking for to put more teeth into the
what happened
toolkit
to
that
we're
you've
not
got
going to
to work with
regulate
presently?
anything?
I think that that's something that we can follow up with you on
I mean,
as we
does
have
he-
these conversations and our bilateral relationships.
Are they
to see
aligned
what
at
else we
all?
might
Like
need.
the
All right, I appreciate that very
president
much. With
and
that, Mr.
these
Chairman, I
guys?
yield
Like-
back.
Thank you, sir.
Gentleman
It's so
yields
crazy.
back. Chair recognizes Representative McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Undersecretary Hooker, for being here today. I'd like to hone in on Secretary Rubio's decision to decimate the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor, or DRL. Most USAID programs and all but a handful of human rights programs have either ended or reportedly have been transferred to bureaus that lack the experience in this work. You just mentioned to Representative Jayapal that the reorganization, quote unquote, of the State Department was not haphazard. But you also told Ranking Member Meeks earlier today, as of right now, there's no plan for absorbing the work formerly done by DRL into the regional bureaus. You said a plan is, quote, in process. That does sound like a haphazard reorganization to me. Legal requirements for reporting to Congress on democracy and human rights programs have not been relaxed by law, yet many of the staff and systems to ensure compliance are gone. So I want to start, Madam Undersecretary, how many State Department staffers and contractors have you all fired that worked in the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor?
I don't have that number in front of me right now, Congresswoman.
Why not?
So you don't have
You don't
the
know?
number of folks that were in this bureau that presumably its work and they have been consolidated under your purview under the bureaus. You don't have a sense of how many remain?
Yeah.
From the nature of your question, I think you're interested in understanding whether these functions are continuing in the bureaus, and I can
No,
assure you
don't-
that the functions are continuing
Bullshit.
in the bureaus.
That's not- I don't
Whether
want your
it's for
assurance.
DRL, PRM, foreign assistance, our CT functions as well. Each of those functions are being integrated into the bureaus.
How is
of
that?
each of the
How are they
regional
being
bureaus that
integrated?
I am responsible for.
How are they being integrated?
Well,
It's true, Grace Lisa.
To that point, if the work is still being done, I want to hone in then on the annual human rights reports, which are of great importance to human rights experts around the world. But going back to 2017, the latest that the country reports on human rights practices was published was April 22nd. It's now July 23rd, and we have yet to see this year's report. Can you explain this delay and when we should expect to see this year's annual required report?
Thank you for that interest. I'm happy to look into it. I don't have an answer for you
Oh,
at the moment.
I don't
I'll
know.
take that back. Happy to report.
I don't know. It's just the major
So it
report I'm
doesn't
supposed
seem
to
like
issue out of this
the work
department.
of the Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights, and Labor is moving forward if they're not releasing reports in the same timely fashion that they did previously. I want to move on
Because they're
to
fired.
ask On this topic, and of course these bureaus absorbing this work, and presumably it's in some form or fashion moving forward, although not clearly as rigorously as it used to. Since assuming your position, how many times have you convened regional bureaus to assess or discuss a major human rights challenge, or for that matter, any human rights issues?
I convene the bureaus weekly to talk about whatever issues they're facing.
And have you discussed major human rights challenges in those meetings?
I'm not going to talk about the specifics of our conversations with each of those regional bureaus.
You know, I got to be honest, I appreciate you taking the time, but I just don't know what to make of these actions, or quite frankly, inactions by the administration. Either this administration is appallingly indifferent to human rights abuses and human trafficking, as we heard last week in Secretary Regis's testimony, or this administration is trying to cover up and paper over the scale of human rights abuses and human trafficking around the world. And quite frankly, given this administration's efforts to cover up abuses committed by Jeffrey Epstein and other powerful men, it appears that there is a pattern here with this administration. The powerful get to do what they want, whether it's powerful men here or strong men around the world, and this administration will cover for them. And it is deeply disturbing to me. And I hope that these regional bureaus under your leadership, because I believe that you personally want to do this work, I hope that this administration will fulfill its legal and moral obligation to report on, to investigate, and to hold other countries accountable for human rights abuses. And with that, Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Representative yields back. I would challenge anybody who has done more to stop trafficking into the United States of America.
Okay, I think we've heard enough. I think we've heard enough. Oh, my Lord in heaven. Because I just don't think I can take much more of the non-answers that this woman is giving to everything that she's been asked. Yikes. I'm telling you, this world. What are we going to do, folks? I guess we're going to keep on keeping on. I have an appointment later this morning. I have another errand to run after that. I will be back tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. General Motors profits dropped 35% this quarter. Oh, you know what? I haven't looked at some of the economic indicators. That would be, yeah, maybe the U.S. can stop trafficking guns into Canada. That would be a start. I don't know. You know, I'm so grateful that Neil, GP, all of our Canadian, all of our international friends are here, because we understand. We understand, and it's good to have your perspectives. And also, we apologize. You know, this is definitely not what we want to put out into the world, but apparently some of us do, and that's why we're here. I don't know how they won. I really don't know how they won, guys. I'm really not sure, but hopefully they are dumb enough to, hopefully they're dumb enough not to rig the next election. I know they cheated. Let's hope they don't cheat the next election, because we need to right this ship. We definitely need to right this ship. Ellen the Magic Johnson from, what is that? What's WWDITS? I don't know what that is. Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you. No, not the U.S. government, but U.S. sources. Oh, yeah. Interesting. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for coming today. I always recommend people read, yes, Heather Cox Richardson. Yes. And it's free. You can subscribe to her free. I want to open that up because I want to make sure that I include that in this week's descriptions. Yeah. Oh, wait. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information. Oh, I see. Whatever. 30% of our fellow citizens are gone. They're not going to enter reality. I agree. I agree 100%. 110%. There are some Canadian news stories I consider posting in Discord, but I don't want to cause arguments with my U.S. friends. Well, Well, I think that's okay. I think it's good. I think it's good to share, like what I'm actually really appreciative. So please feel free to share your country's news sources that you want in our Discord, because we all benefit from that information being shared, frankly. So thank you. I will have a great, I will watch out for my cat. My cat scratched me this morning, right in the face. Oh well, I'm going to wash my face and put some Neosporin on it. All right. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Thank you so much for coming. And I will definitely see you tomorrow morning. And have just the best day ever. I hope you do.